Okay, so that's going to end the final workout for this season. I'm a little winded because I switched over from, I'm sprinting down, so I went from distance to sprint mode. So yeah, catching my breath. Next time we meet, it's going to be in San Diego. See us on our way over. Again, how does this have to do with art? In sports and art, you have to be consistent. You have to draw, you have to draw, and you have to draw. Practice, practice, practice. Exactly what it's like here. Follow us all the way to San Diego. My goal is to see how close I can get on the 50s to 30 seconds on the yards. All right, let the games begin. You know, we've done already 13 episodes, and we're going to finish off with 14 episodes. And during that time, a lot of people have asked, where did you go to school? What have you done? Well, we'll start off here. This is a school I attended, the University of Southern California, where I got my undergraduate degree. In actuality, we're going to go backwards. So before we go to San Diego, we're going to stop off at a few places where I met my lovely wife, where I went to my undergraduate school, which was here, Ventura College, my high school, etc., etc. But this was the turning point in my life. This was the part that actually got me going into the arts and actually got me going to where I am today. This was probably one of the biggest turning points ever in my life, where I met my wife and how she got me where I'm going. Anyway, let's go off to another part of the university that you can see that is probably one of the staples or main points of the university. Come on, I'm going to show you over here. Let's go. Now, before we go off to see one of the landmarks, this is the newspaper, the Daily Trojan. It was actually where the Rollerbots, it wasn't really their first publication, but it was one of the biggest publications that they got when the school, university, saw them, and they became rather popular. This was a lead up to eventually where I got an offer to sell them, but I said no. And that's a whole different story, but we'll talk about that later. Come on, let's head over to where Tommy Trojan is, and I'll show you where he is. Tommy Trojan. This is pretty much the centerpiece of the university itself. As a matter of fact, our crosstown rival, University of California at Los Angeles, otherwise known as UCLA, there's a rival where during the rival games, they have a bear and they wrap everything up. They wrap this up because one year they took a helicopter and dumped blue paint on top of this. Yeah, that was pretty something. I wasn't around at that time. Behind me is Bouvard Auditorium, and this was originally part of the main university. Over across from it is Doheny Library. That was one of the first libraries that was built here. But this is the place where everybody comes in. You have your rallies, you have everything going on here, and pretty much a lot has changed. It's still the same, but has changed a lot. And I can tell you one thing right now. When I get here, I reminisce, and there's a lot of nostalgia that comes up. I was told one time that you really don't appreciate the college or university you graduated from until the further away you get. And believe me now, I understand that. We're going to take one more stop, because you're probably going to want to see the school that I attended, which was the Roski School of Art and Design. Let's head down. Roski School of Art and Design. Also the School of Architecture. This was where I did my undergraduate studies. There's a lot of memories here. It's hard to believe it's been, well, almost 30 years. But this was the place, and this was a central court area where a lot of us hung out. The studios were here, and right over here, this was our main cafeteria, so we didn't have to go back all the way to the main area of the university. Yeah, it's rather nostalgic, I could say. But this is where it started. This is where my undergraduate I achieved. And I did it because, well, my dad couldn't make it here. And this is where he dreamt that he would come to school. So, this gives you an idea of what SC is like. But let's move on up to Ventura County, and we'll take a look and see what Ventura College looks like, where I met my college sweetheart. And this is Ventura College, community college. Right after high school, I came to school here where I met Elisa.
The buildings. Where'd the buildings come from? Look at the trees. How long did it take the trees to grow?
My mom attended here.
Oh, I attended here back in the day. You didn't have this enormous building. I don't even know what buildings are. What buildings are. Wow.
We're in the art studio here.
Gosh.
She's amazed.
I don't. Oh my gosh. Is that the auditorium?
Isn't she wonderful? Yeah, that's the auditorium now.
That's where I did 4 semesters.
And this is where I had my art class here, right over here. That's the painting class.
Well, that's when I took children's art craft.
And this is over here was the other building I took when I had my commercial illustration class.
This one was not here, I don't think.
And this one over here now, that's the digital arts where you work on computers over here.
They had no digital computers because there were really no computers at that time. You didn't even have little cells. God, bless America. Look at how enormous this.
It's grown.
No, look at the goosebumps I'm getting. Where am I in? Am I in the 20th century?
We're gonna go off to Santa Paula High School where I went, but this gives you an idea where it is. Okay, come on, this gives you ideas of here. Oh, she's in shock.
God, dog. I'm sorry, I have to let out all of this.
Santa Paula Union High School. That's what it was called when I went to school, when my mom went to school. This was the high school I attended. You tend to get a bit emotional, at least I do as artists, but this is where it started. It's my hometown. This place has a lot of tradition because there were a couple of generations that graduated from this school. My uncles, my mom, my dad, my sister, myself, many of my relatives, my cousins. Santa Paula High School goes back to 1886. It's over 100 years old. So there's a lot, and this is where my art career actually generated from. But I had my mom come in. Come here, Mom. Because she attended the school too. She came in. And as much fun as I have had her cutting in on everything else, when you attended this school, what has changed that you see different?
The modernizing of the high school, the college flavor that it has, or added more modern buildings. It was more like a university look, and there was change there, but it still had the same, like the auditorium, the entrance to the high school. There was a lot of the flavor of during the war and this way. And there's a lot of memories that I have from this high school because I graduated from this high school. So it was a privilege to graduate and know that I finished my journey in this school.
As you can see, there's a lot of rich history here. The school was built during the WPA. And for those of younger ones, what the WPA was during the time of the Depression. Roosevelt had hired artists, musicians, people just to get the economy going again. And Santa Paula High School was built in 1939, same year my mom was born. There's one thing about us, we don't care about our ages. I'm 63 and my mom just turned 85, so we're proud of our ages because we earned that. But this school has been standing, it's been added to it. But this kind of gives you an idea of where my background is and what we've done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the house that I used to live in on Ojai Road, and we're going to head over there. So let's close this part here and we'll head over there. Let's go, Mom.
Okay.
Come on. Well, this is it. It's the house I pretty much grew up in. Almost 50 years. Well, not 50 years. 40 years. Almost 40 years of being in this house. There's a lot of...
Are you hungry? Come and eat. I have enchiladas. No, mijo. I have enchiladas. I have tacos. Come inside and... No, come. I'm telling you, you have to eat. You have to eat. Now, whatever it is, come on in, and then we can take care of what you're talking about, okay? But you know, enchiladas. You like tacos, so let's have tacos.
Can I? You know what? I'm gonna have to go inside because you know how moms are. Yeah.
He has to understand what I'm trying to tell him.
This is my mom, so I'm gonna go inside and we're gonna get something to eat.
Thank you.
I'll be back. Let's go, Mom. Come on. It's okay. No worries. She's like, oh my goodness, Chris. It's okay. We'll go inside. Let's go.
Yeah, well, you better start swimming after it.
This guy, he keeps swimming around.
You keep swimming.
Keep swimming. Just keep swimming, swimming, swimming.
Keep swimming!
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Let the games begin.
So this is the area where Cabrillo had established himself. Well, not really himself, but this is the land.
Wow, the National Monument, Cabrillo. My God, look at the ocean. Look at the... Whoa, gosh. Oh my God, look at the enormity of this ocean. Oh my God.
Mom.
Papa. No.
I'm recording.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Isn't this gorgeous and Lord God.
You can see how excited she is. So we'll just go back inside and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Look at that plane. Oh my
Great,
God.
great.
Oh
Let's
my
go.
God.
Come on.
Espérate. Wait a minute. You don't let me finish what I'm saying. Quiet. I want to make sure to be as natural as I think of
natural. Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo. This is a marker where he actually landed back in 1542. This is the place where California basically began. Under King Charles I of Spain, this is where Cabrillo claimed this for Spain. It's the first marker and the first historical place of California. San Diego was developed here and then eventually turned around into the state of California, which we know of today. Right over on this side is a lighthouse that was also used not during that time, obviously, but developed later to mark those ships coming into the harbor itself. But we're going to take a look at some other stuff as well, but the swimming competition is over, and let's take a look at some of the other places here in San Diego. 1776. On the other side of the continent, the United States was fighting for its independence. And here, one of the original 21 missions were built. This is San Juan Capistrano. But this part here is not the original part, as you can probably see. Behind it is the original part of the mission. But it fell apart during an earthquake and was destroyed. But it really gives you a good idea of what was happening in the United States on one side versus the other side. Fight for independence on one side, and the Spanish were working on this side of the United States. Let's go take a look at the replica and we can see what it's like. Come on. So this is it. San Juan Capistrano. We're about an hour and 15 minutes north of San Diego. Now the mission you see behind me, this is one of 21 missions. And this one here is actually a replica of the original mission.
Look at the shape of this building mission. Isn't it gorgeous? Look, the 3 layers. The 2 top ones are the bell. Look at that round part, almost like a dome. Isn't it wonderful? Let me explain to you. Oh, and look at these. Look at the palm trees. Aren't they gorgeous? Doesn't it give it the accent? It's
wonderful.
Wow. Wow. It's wonderful.
Let's go take a look. We're going to go take a look at the trading post.
All right. Okay, let's go.
we'll be back. But yeah.
We'll be back.
Come
Okay.
on, come
All
on.
right.
All right, let's go,
Okay.
let's go.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's good. Yeah. It feels so good to sit down now.
And so concludes our visit to California. Well, not exactly, just a few more stops and then we're going to head out. This has been a special episode of visiting California, and this, of course, being the last episode before we go into review over everything we've done this season. Ventura Harbor. This is one of the stops here, which brings back quite a few memories of when I was paddling and training, and even doing some hull cleaning. But let's move on. We move up here to the 21st mission of California. We just got back from San Juan Capistrano, and this is actually the third mission in all the missions that are up and down California. Now, keep in mind that a lot of these missions were not in geographical order. In other words, they didn't go from San Diego directly to San Francisco. No, they actually pop-marked and skipped and jumped here and there. As you can see here in the Ventura mission, the gardens are absolutely spectacular. I mean, they just have a beauty about them. And they're just absolutely gorgeous. And we're going to visit one more mission, which will be up in Santa Barbara area. But let's take a look at the Spanish style structure and architecture. As you can see, it's much more different than that on the East Coast, which is more an English style or Jeffersonian style. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, although we're not talking much about architecture, this does go into art history. You can tell by the Spanish influence on the West Coast versus the English influence on the East Coast. This is important because later on down the road we're going to be talking about the different styles of architecture and how these architectures and culture influence the United States. You will see how these different styles work, and even historically how certain events happened during this period. This also brings up a question. Why is 1588 such an important year? Well, 1588 could have done a complete turnaround in world history. Well, 1588 was when the Spanish tried to invade England, and of course, in the short version, they failed. They swung around the north, the storm destroyed their ships, and limped home only carrying a handful of their armada back to Spain. But let's play a what if, even though I don't like much of what ifs. If Spain had conquered England, the United States wouldn't exist, at least not the way we know it today. Think about that. Then the United States would have been a colony of England. It would have been a colony of Spain, and therefore Mexico would have probably come all the way up into Canada, and the United States never existing. And therefore, the Jeffersonian style of architecture would have never existed here in the U.S. But that's a whole different subject altogether, and something we're most likely to get into later on down the road. In this one, we're going to be talking about the figure, and a static figure such as this, and then move on to a contrapposto style such as this, and as well as this. And then, of course, moving into foreshortening as we have here, and then extreme foreshortening as here. And then moving the figure into an action figure like this soccer player we have here, the swimmer we have here, and of course the paddler here. So let's move on, and let's take on the next step of finally getting into the final figure drawing and gesture drawing as we close out this final episode. So here we are. The competition is over, and obviously dressed on the second day after the competition. Got a chance to see the human figure in action and what it looks like and what's going on. And this is going to be very, very important in your drawing in the human figure. Got a chance to see how the body looks, what it's done, and you can see some of the still photos that my wife took of me, and you can see different parts of the muscular structure and how they work, how these parts connect, the deltoids and to the back, and triceps, biceps, and how they all work together. In order to be able to do all that, you have to have gone back to what we did before and then work on those in order to compile all these together. Okay, well, let's take a look at some of the other images that I've done. Remember, this is the second to the last episode of this season. We will go over everything on the last episode of kind of an overview. In our next season, we're going to be talking about color theory. And that's going to be a real challenge, getting into color theory, but we'll talk about that later. But let's finish off our episode here with figure drawing. Now, one of the things I'm going to show you on these figures, which I've drawn, is there's going to be a static, contrapposto, foreshortening, and action figures. So you want to take a look at these figures and how they're drawn. Now, one of the things that you're going to learn in drawing is called gesture drawing. Now, gesture drawing is just taking the figure like this demonstration here and sketching it out very, very quickly. You're not looking at proportion, you're not looking at style, you're not looking at form. What you're looking at is you're trying to capture the movement or style of how that person is standing or the figure is standing. And this is going to help you to catch everything that you're seeing. It's also very helpful whenever you're drawing something such as in a sports event or somebody that's moving, you can capture that movement really quick. And it takes some time to do that. So these gesture drawings that you're seeing sketched out are figure drawings, 10 seconds. We used to even go down as fast as 5 seconds. And what you're trying to do is you're forcing yourself to see muscle structure and movement of the body. Gesture drawings can go up as far as even a 30-second or 1 minute gesture drawing. And when you start getting at that level, you really start realizing you have a lot of time to be able to start putting in those muscles and developing everything that works with that. Okay, let's take a look at the first drawing, which is a drawing done in a static drawing here. Okay, this first drawing is my brother-in-law, and as you can see, he is standing static. All you're looking at right now is you're looking at the figure, which basically is just from chest up, and you're just looking at the arms and legs. Now, here's what I would suggest you do. Do a 10-second, 15, 30, and 1 minute drawing, just as I have demonstrated here. These are gesture drawings to be able to help you to see and see how the muscle structures are working. The next drawing you're going to look at is this one. It's a contrapposto. This one is my daughter. And as you can see, she's standing, and there's a bit of foreshortening with her hands giving the number 2 sign, victory sign, peace sign, whatever you want to look at, but she's casually throwing one hip. Notice the hip line is now thrusted to one side, and her upper body is turned to one side. It's no longer static. This is known as contrapposto, which means a counter posture in Latin. So it's used a lot coming in when you look at, like, for instance, the statue of David is done in contrapposto. This is static. This is contrapposto. It starts to make the figure look a little more exciting. It makes the figure look a little more dynamic. You're adding a little more excitement to that. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The one after that, we're going to see is now an action figure. Now this one is swimmers coming off the starting block, and you're capturing movement. This is where you're starting to look at gesture drawing. And this is what's going to help you to be able to capture these movements that you're trying to see. Again, 5 second, 10 second, 15, 30, and 1 minute second drawings. You can do a series of these using your newsprint paper. It does get rather boring, but believe me, it will help you to be able to develop your skill set in drawing. Move on to the next one. Following that one is going to be a foreshortening one. Now this one is of my wife playing soccer. Notice now that what you're looking at is she is making movement and turning. You're capturing the movement by using, this becomes even more complex because now you're throwing clothing on top of the figure. As she's running, she's starting to, you can see the wind starting to hit parts of her body to give you the image that that is a light fabric hitting her skin. In order to be able to draw that, you have to be able to understand how the figure works. Again, going back to basics. You can see this here in this drawing that I'm going to do real quick on this demonstration, and you can see how it's done. There. That's all you need to do, is just do a quick sketch drawing and be able to understand the fluidity of the human figure. All right, next one after that. This one becomes even more complicated. It's foreshortening. With me in the kayak, you can actually see that the hand is almost the size of the head. And in actuality, you can see that if I put my hand out this way, my hand is not the size of my head. However, if I do this, now you can see my fist is almost the size of my head. We talked about this in foreshortening in several episodes when we went into foreshortening about the hand, and this is also the same way. Let's take a look at this next one where I took my wife into a superhero of Wonder Woman, this one here. You can see now that one there of her is also foreshortening. Remember the hand. Look at how the hand is blurred. It's to give that kind of blurred motion that the hand is moving, but the hand is out of proportion to the head. Well, that's because it's foreshortened. And using sketches like this, you start to practice and look at creating depth. Remember, if you don't understand foreshortening, it's going to look like everything is stacked up, and eventually the hand will look like it's just squished up and it looks almost like a deformed figure. You don't want to do that. That's what takes practice to understanding the layers of foreshortening. We all know that there is one head length from the shoulder to the elbow, elbow to the wrist is another head, so it's two heads total. But when you move that hand forward, it changes completely. Now, you're starting to create that foreshortening. It also works on my legs here. Notice how I'm standing here, but if I lean forward, lift this leg up and back, it now becomes foreshortened. You can see how the knee is dropped. That you'll start to see, especially when you start working in anime, you start working in comic characters, or even in animation. So practicing that is going to take some work on there. All right, and finally, let's move on to the next one, which is going to be super foreshortening, which we have shown earlier of the woman standing and holding the middle, and you can see how this is called extreme foreshortening or forced perspective. This gets to be very dramatic because if you don't do it right, the little tiny feet she has there, looks like she has little tiny feet. And we don't want that. We actually want this to look like it's foreshortening. Okay, so that's going to end this episode of, well, this episode period, and it's going to be pretty much ending the season. We're coming close to it. Last one we're going to have is we are going to go over everything we did this season. We're going to go over the materials. We're going to go over everything that we have. Now, I was going to go and add one more episode about dry media, and that was going to be with pastel and color pencil. However, I really believe we need to work on color theory before we get into the colors and understanding how you're using these colors. So we will introduce those later on down the road. As usual, and always, may the Lord always be with you. Remember, this is one heck I keep saying, trying times that we're in right now, is keep yourself focused. Keep drawing. Keep looking. And from the Royal Estate here in Ojai, California, we say farewell, and we will see you back in Lynchburg, Virginia for the final episode of this season in Artifacts. You take care.
¡Pantalabamba!